When the Sandy Hook school shooting took place in 2012, America said never again. And 3,448 days later, tragedy struck again, this time at an elementary school in Texas. 19 children were killed after a gunman opened fire in the Texas school. The shooting took place at the Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, a small city west of San Antonio. Robb Elementary School has more than 500 students. Most of them are Hispanic and economically disadvantaged students. The eyewitnesses say that the shooter crashed his vehicle near the school, got out with a rifle and a backpack, entered the school and opened fire. The gunman has been identified as an 18-year-old who also died at the spot. Authorities say that he shot his grandmother before the mass shooting. She remains hospitalized in a critical condition. The United States accounts for more than half of all the gun violence deaths in the world, more than half of them. And almost every month, there are reports of Americans going on a rampage with their firearms, some of them as young as 17. This gunman himself was just 18 years old. This is because gun laws in America are a sham, to say the least. Let's take you through the eligibility criteria, for example. It's a bare minimum. A person must be 21 years or older, not stand convicted of weapon offenses, and not have a history of violent behavior. And the process is also quite simple. First, go to the firearms dealer in your city. 2, make them contact the FFL or the Federal Firearms Licensing Office. And 3, ask the dealer to send your purchased gun to an authorized dealer. There will be some interviews, some background checks, and soon you will have a brand new weapon. 3 million American children witness gun terror every year, some even perpetrated. Women in the country are 21 times more likely to be killed with a gun than women in any other high-income countries. At least 1 million American women alive today have been shot at by an intimate partner. The easy access to a gun enables such terror. It makes an abusive partner 5 times more likely to kill his female victim. Almost all of these mass shooters are men. They are linked by a common thread, a history of misogyny, violence against female partners or family members, or sharing women-hating views online. Do most abusers become killers? No. But most of the mass shootings in America are linked to abusers. Over 50 women are fatally shot by their partners every month in the United States. Which brings us to the question, why can known abusers buy guns? The 1996 Lautenberg Amendment bans the possession of firearms by people convicted of domestic violence. Since its enactment, nearly 195,000 people have been stopped from buying guns. But the enforcement is patchy. It has what many call the boyfriend loophole. The law does not cover abuse by non-married partners without children. So if you have a partner you are not married to or don't share children with, they can buy guns in America, even if they have been convicted of domestic violence. The authorities do have the power to take away the guns, but it is difficult with so many firearms in circulation. There are about 120 guns for every 100 Americans. No other country in the world has more guns than people. And this makes the U.S. gun homicide rate 25 times higher than that of other wealthy countries. So even after 10 years, America is dealing with the same problem, lax gun laws, a system that refuses to change, and guns that continue to terrorize America's children. And our correspondent Simon Marks has been tracking those developments on the ground. He sent us this detailed report from Washington, D.C. Take a look.
The United States is now grappling with the magnitude of Tuesday's massacre in Uvalde. Earlier today, we learnt that all 19 children who perished at the hands of an 18-year-old gunman and the 2 teachers who died were in one classroom at the Robb Elementary School in the Texas city. The gunman had barricaded himself into that classroom in an effort to avoid being captured by police who were already pursuing him through the streets of Uvalde in connection with an earlier assault, the shooting of his own grandmother. It was after that he then headed to Robb Elementary School. The grandmother remains in critical condition in hospital. Families were being informed of the worst news that any parents could receive late last night at the Uvalde Community Centre. Their harrowing cries of anguish piercing the building and being heard by reporters gathered outside and preparing to file for the late-night local news bulletins in Texas. Here in Washington, President Biden is leading the nation in mourning once again. He has ordered flags at federal government buildings to be lowered in honour of the victims of a mass shooting once again. The last time he did that was less than 10 days ago for the 10 victims of the shooting at the Buffalo supermarket. President Biden, in an impassioned speech to the nation, insisted that it's time for America to stand up to the power of the country's gun lobby. And yet he offered absolutely no new legislative initiatives in an effort to achieve that, nor indeed did he call for any specific congressional action to move forward and try and implement meaningful gun control in the United States. And the power of the pro-gun lobby is very much on evidence even in the Lone Star State of Texas this week. On Friday, the National Rifle Association, the most powerful and well-financed gun rights lobby group in the country, will be holding its annual conference in the Texan city of Houston. And currently, guest speakers include former US President Donald Trump, Senator Ted Cruz of Texas, and Governor Greg Abbott of Texas, who only yesterday described the Uvalde shooting as incomprehensible and is now planning to visit the scene of it, despite the fact that as governor of Texas, he has only loosened the state's gun control laws, not done anything to tighten them. So this intractable problem continues in the United States. Another week, another mass shooting, the nation's attention this time on the city of Uvalde in southwest Texas, now preparing to bury 19 10-year-olds and 2 teachers cut down by the 18-year-old suspect who died at the scene on Tuesday.
And with us on the broadcast this minute is Nicole Bener-Schmitz, Democratic strategist with us from Washington, D.C. Nicole, as we just outlined, the figures are appalling. 212 mass shootings this year itself. And we are talking about the U.S. gun production tripling since 2000, fueled by handgun purchases. That's just a sample of the long list of figures that we have that point towards this growing menace, this epidemic that America has been dealing with. What concrete measures can we now expect from the American president? He has denounced the U.S. gun lobby, but at the same time, America has found itself helpless in front of that very lobby so far.
We have. It's a public health crisis here in America. We are suffering from mass shootings weekly now. We haven't even finished burying the victims from Buffalo before this tragedy happened yesterday. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like the United States Senate is going to move at all. There are several bills that have passed the House that are sitting at the Senate, and we cannot find a Republican senator to come to the table and discuss and pass some reasonable measures. There is no reason for citizens of this country to own weapons of war. That is ridiculous. Automated guns need to be banned, but again, not something that Republicans will come to the table on. Background checks. 90% of Americans support stronger background check laws. But the NRA has this hold on these Republicans, and they spend millions of dollars on their races, either for or against them, and have completely stopped movement of this in the United States Senate. So it is tragic. It is heartbreaking. The Senate could also take up the nomination of a new ATF chair. But again, Republicans not moving forward on this confirmation. They are doing not nothing, but everything they can to weaken gun laws in this country, to make it easier for people to have weapons and magazines and an ability to mow down a fourth grade classroom in the matter of minutes.
Right, we just outlined how the Lautenberg Amendment does ban people who are convicted of domestic violence from owning these weapons. But at the same time, the enforcement is patchy. And we have been outlining how misogyny also plays a part here when it comes to fueling the U.S. mass shootings. Why is it that the implementation of this law has been this lax?
It's not a commitment that a lot of states have. There's, as your correspondent noted, the governor of Texas has made it easier in the state of Texas to own guns. Also, you have to have been convicted of this domestic violence. So this is something it's not accused of. It's not fined for. It's actually gone through a full trial, not an agreement or a plea or a dismissed. So that's a bar it has to meet as well. And what you were saying earlier is true. Mass shootings are horrific, and I hope something that America does not become desensitized to. We need to continue to make sure that we feel the pain of this. But gun violence in this country is bigger than these mass shootings. It is this unbelievable misogyny that is happening in our country, where particularly women, and usually from someone who is an intimate partner, are either murdered at the hands of that person or assaulted or experience some kind of violence when they do experience violence. So it is a real issue, the availability of guns in this country. That's what it comes down. There's lots of things we can be doing. There's mental health, there's social services, but what it comes down to is an access and an easy ability to get weapons are creating this violence across our country.
Nicole, thanks very much for joining us on the broadcast, and hoping that when we speak next, there are some concrete measures that we're looking at when it comes to tackling this gun violence epidemic. WION now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.